something that you start noticing once you spend enough time online. The louder it gets, the emptier it feels. Even the good content are usually a lot of noise without depth, truly. And even if it's true, it's only partly true. And partly true won't do it when your soul is starving for wholeness. We scroll, we share, we speak. But are we becoming more peaceful or just more performative? If you're Catholic creative or just somebody who's trying to live for Christ online, it can feel like the world is just too loud for faith. But there's a way, there's a different way. And a way that starts with silence and ends with purpose. I'm gonna say that when I was younger, I used to read a lot more books. Even if we had TV, there was a discipline and just a different way of looking for information, Googling things, and maybe it's because I used to live in a developing country, so the internet was pretty much slow. When I say slow, it's like slow. If you don't have patience, well, you find something else to do. And you read books, and it was fun, it was cool. And there's that moment now that all the information, a lot of information, free information can be found in books. Not every book, obviously, because everybody is writing nowadays. So you really have to filter out a lot of things. So I would say you start with the basic of the basic of the basic, especially if you are Christian, the Bible. I feel like all those self-development books that I got to read for years and years and years, I'm drawn to it, obsessed with it. I'm a coach, so I love to help people. All that to discover that everything that you would read there is already in the Bible. Everybody should have, as a Christian, as a Catholic, is the Bible. A lot of people are going to hate me for that. But I grew up being Catholic, and the Bible was not necessarily the book that we would use the most. It would be the book that would stand somewhere on the table, and we would read that from time to time. And I have to say that my mom was pretty good for us to pray, read the Psalms most of the time with the prayers. So I kind of learned to read it, but not read it frequently. And that's something that is changing now because I'm starting to read it again and discover all the depth and the richness of it. When I got in Canada, the Bible that I had was the one that my mom gave me. So I kept that. And recently I got the Bible from Ascensions Press with Father Mike Schmidt. Amazing, amazing, amazing. It's very, very big and very packed. And I would say it's probably not the one that you would use to travel. I wouldn't do that because it's pretty big and pretty heavy, but it's so beautiful. And not only is beautiful, but inside you've got the Bible. So you've got all the books from the Bible, but on top of that, you've got the timeline of every key event during the wedding of Cana, for example. And you've got a lot of notes and a lot of references on how to interpret the Bible, how to interpret certain parts that maybe are more complicated to understand. And we've got a ton and a lot of it. And that's why a lot of people usually, they kind of give up when they start just reading the Bible like that. And my non-favorite book, I would say, is Numbers. Please let me know down below if you have a favorite part of the Bible and part that is just a lot more complicated. Not saying that it's not valuable, it's just more complicated to understand and then interpret. So in here you've got the key events. So those key events usually get to bring you through the line of just Jesus in the New Testament, and everything starts to be aligned. The Bible, the way Father Mike Schmidt did it through the Ascension Press, is beautiful, amazing for that, and amazing to understand like that. So you've got those visual and the colors and the drawings. And I want to say that I'm like a baby. I need visuals in my life. So when I get to have those visuals, it gets everything much more interesting for me. We lost faith a long time ago, and we forgot that everything that we were looking for was already somewhere in one place. It is the Bible. And when you think about manifestation, for example, and you understand the concept behind it, you understand the idea behind it, it's pretty much us taking matter in our own hands to create things happening in the universe because you're thinking about it, it's going to happen. And no, it doesn't work like that, because if it's a grace that you ask from God, if it is part of your purpose, it is part of your mission, it's going to give it to you. And it gets you to be more obedient and not necessarily getting gifts just because you want those gifts. So it starts to be a lot more distorted if you're not being careful, because you're starting to be influenced by the way that people say things and the vocabulary of it. And there's nothing new under the sun. I can definitely challenge anyone to tell me whatever they see and they feel like it's new, that is not in the Bible. And not necessarily the specific things from the modern society, but the principle of life behind everything that we do as humans, that you can find in any cultures across any nation. Start with that, meditate on that, read that. It's pretty cool. And you don't need to start by the beginning, as in the Genesis. I feel like a lot of people, they really make it a way to start, like any book, actually, starting with the beginning, and sometimes not necessarily. When I started reading the Bible again, I started with Esther's story, and then I walked my way through the following chapter. So there's a way to read it where it doesn't have to be from the beginning to the end. Then you've got another one, which is the Catholic Bible Studies. And I was so excited when I heard about it. It's the first time that I hear about Catholics doing Bible study. It is no other than Scott Hahn. And for those that don't know him, I don't understand how you don't. It's pretty much known in the Catholic sphere because he used to be Protestant. He was very anti-Catholic, and then he found God through the Catholicism and found the beauty through it. And he super smart. He became Catholic, and it was like ages ago. Not saying that he's super old, but saying that it's been years now. He knows his stuff, and he studied the Catholicism for years and years. And after 20 years plus of working on that project of Catholic Bible studies, it finally went out. When I heard about it, I was just waiting, because I live in Canada, so I was waiting for us to be able to have access to it, and I was too excited to get it when I was able to. Alongside of the comments, the references, and then all the context in which events you can find why they used to do what they did, how things happened the way they did, and all the historical and the traditions that we have within the Catholic Church can be found here, because you've got all the meanings of what we do and why we do that. When you start looking into why we do what we do as Catholics, you're gonna be able to find places and references and people talking about it online anyways. But by having a proper, I would say, proper place where you can find everything by somebody that is very known and almost a doctor of the church at this point for me, because he knows so much, you are really, really good starting with that. And I think it's something that I will include into our book club, to have a couple of Bible studies as Catholics, Christian, because I feel that is probably what we're missing the most. And that's a good thing that Protestant, they kind of challenged us into the scripture, because it's not necessarily a thing that most Catholics do, or at least lukewarm Catholics, if we want to call them like that. We never necessarily think about the Bible like that. We never thought about the Bible like that. I grew up, I knew about the Bible. I knew what was inside the Bible, but we never necessarily got those moments where we were actually sitting down and reading it through and studying it like the Protestants do. And it was a really good thing happening for us to be challenged that way, because without it, I don't know if it would take matter on our own hands and start really working into why we do what we do, right? And being able to say that to people, explain that to other people when we really get in front of those anti-Catholic and anti-Christian and anti-all Christianity in general people in front of us, because you then are able to have words and put words into why are we praying to Mary? Why are we praying to the dead? Why we have purgatory? Where does it come from? And having Catholic Bible studies is really good, because you're going to get your answers. When I was still pretty much lukewarm in my own faith, there was a lot of questions that I couldn't even answer. But I was convinced there was an answer. I just didn't know the answer. Now that I know the resources, I have the references, and I know the people and the books to read for that, I'm really, really not threatened when somebody comes at me not being Catholic or being Catholic and having all sort of questions, because I feel like there's a way to answer them. There's a way to answer with grace and love and compassion. The third thing is none other than the catechism of the Catholic Church, because again, we have traditions, we have sacraments, we have all the Christianity, the spirituality of it, and what we do, and the gesture, and the prayers, and the words that we use, and the theology, the concept that we have. It's so rich, and we've got all that fullness. And sometimes you can have a lot, but if you can't structure and can't organize why we do what we do, people are looking at us as just people adding stuff onto stuff that don't matter no more. We add up things to the Bible, we add up things to everything around it. We just need Jesus, and that's true. But when you think about the historic approach of it as well, the Bible was written into a certain, I would say, historical, political context. So it's really important to take that into account and to preserve it, because it's a respect that we owe to those people that were there way before us and people that were there right in front of Jesus. As a Catholic online, trying to find words into explaining to people and into being an entrepreneur online and really building your stuff, you are really needing to go back to the roots of who you are, what you're doing, why are you doing it, because it's always going to be in the back end of everything that you're going to do here online. And I think that's beautiful. And you've got so many things in the catechism. To get the communion, for example, you need to go through the catechism, understanding what you're doing, why we're doing it, why you're praying. I recently did my confirmation. It was the same thing. I didn't necessarily go through the whole catechism, but we went through a couple of things that were essential for me to get through the confirmation as a sacrament, because it's very important to understand, not just doing it, but understanding the sacrament and the weight of it on you. And this one is from Ascension Press as well. It's not just about having more information, it's about forming your mind in truth. So here we're trying to think like Christ, not just talking about him. Always ask yourself, why does the person in front of me react this way? This curiosity is not just empathy, it's spiritual maturity. Don't fall into the trap of shallow personal development, because most of it is recycled ambition wrapped in ego. What you need is more than that. It is renewal of the mind. The Rosary isn't just repetition. It is rhythm, meditation, protection. You're not alone. You're praying with Mary, who always leads us to her Son. I call praying the Rosary having such a tool to fight the enemy to such level. And I would love for everybody to just understand the beauty of praying the Rosary. It's not only the way for you to reflect, to think about the mysteries of Christ, to think about the life of Christ, because it's never about Mary. It's Jesus through Mary, and the Rosary in the prayers, through the prayers, you see that, you hear that, you meditate on that. And when you have these beautiful things that we call the Rosary, it is a way for you to not only reflect and having that present spiritually, to be with Mary, to be with Jesus, but having something tangible that you can touch, that you can feel. And we are beings, we are human beings. We are affected by touch, we are affected by contact. So any material, anything that you're gonna touch, there's something that you're gonna feel, there's something that's gonna make you or just transcend you somewhere else. And having that gets you to be less distracted, first of all, because when you start praying, usually you have those moments where your mind goes everywhere. It's hard, at least for the 3 to 5 first minutes, When you start praying, you're thinking about cooking, what you're gonna cook, you're thinking about what you're gonna bring to your friends. You have a way to be distracted, and it's normal. We are human beings. We're gonna go through that. When you have the rosary, when you touch those beads and you go beads by beads and you keep doing the same thing, you keep doing the repetition, it gets you to be in a state. And that state is going to be that meditation space, to stay in stillness. And that's something that is so trendy. Again, when I see that, I always go back to what we have as Catholics, where we don't need to go anywhere else to find that. If you want to meditate, pray the rosary. If you want to reflect on Christ's life, pray the rosary. And it's a quick, fast way to get back to it, to get back to those thoughts, to get back to that communion with Christ through Mary. And it's so powerful and so small because you can have it anywhere. You can be waiting at the doctor's office and start praying it. And you even have the little one that I bring to work all the time, and I keep it and have it on my hand. You need to do that at least once a day would be ideal to start. But if you can do that and you start feeling stressful and you don't have the time to do a full rosary wherever you are, you can have this and use that to pray the full rosary, or to pray 10 Hail Marys, for example. It's going to be a way to bring Jesus wherever you are, to always be reminded. I was talking to my mom yesterday and we were talking about the rosary and Mary, and the simple fact is that you get the fullness of the truth. You don't need to go anywhere else for that. You're going to find everything that you need. But talking about Mary, thinking about Mary and really getting to her as a woman too, I was talking about it with my mom, and she was sharing her own experiences praying the rosary and having it a daily part of her life, and how she feels at peace, how whenever she goes through things and challenges in life, because life happens, you get to be transported, you get to feel the peace, the love, the comfort of our Lord through Mary, along with Mary, like a mom and the son. It's just a beautiful picture and a beautiful feeling that you may have whenever you do that. And you're not alone in this. And again, another thing that we're probably going to start including into the book club. At this point, I don't even know if it's going to be just a book club. I think it's just going to be a part of a lot of things here. So stay tuned and get down below for the link to join. Just saying.
Draw, paint, edit, film. Your soul needs expression. Creativity isn't a distraction. It's a form of prayer when offered to God.
The second thing is finding a creative outlet. We think about prayers, we think about the rosary, we're thinking about the Bible, we think about all those information that you may have and you may have more clarity on when you start going back to the roots. But because we're human beings, the same way you need to be in movement. And finding a creative outlet could be anything from drawing, singing, reading, editing, right? But finding something that you're already passionate about, it doesn't have to be big. If you used to draw, start drawing again. Because being online, having to find peace here and to really build a successful, I would say, business here online, and you want to go back to Christ for that, and you want to go back to your purpose, your life mission that the Lord gave you, to start having more clarity on it, you need to start doing something. You can't be sitting on the couch every day and just wait for him to show up and be like, by the way, do you want to do something? Outlets are there for a reason. When you start that draw, don't wait for him to tell you clearly you need to do that. It's not going to work like that, and it's not working like that for a lot of us. So usually you need to get out of your shell, move a little bit more, show up, and start doing the little things. Whatever you may find around you, do it. I was used to draw mangas all the time. I'm still very much animated with that. I just have way less time to do that, but I used to love drawing, creating stories, getting into my imagination and having those characters that I would really make alive in my head and sharing that with the world and usually during that, sharing it with my dad, sharing it that with my mom, and having those moments with my aunt siblings, being in the living room, sitting into a circle and starting to draw and starting sharing ideas. And it was silent. There was not a lot of chit chat. We were just being so focused on what we were doing, but we were together and we were in communion with each other. And those moments are just the moments you want to cherish the most. And the same way you're gonna have those feelings, the same way you can share that with everybody else out there. So by creating and having that creative outlet, you get to be in communion with other people, and you see the face of Christ through other people. And those are usually the cause, but you don't notice that, and it's so small that you are feeling like it's not a big deal. But you start with that, and then the doors start to open more.
Try walking while praying the Rosary. Let your body and soul move together. It's not about performance, it's about integration. Peace comes when we stop dividing ourselves.
Getting to something that has movement as well, along with the creative outlet, is the physical part. You can be able to have a creative outlet or having something where you are in movement. And you start finding combos and creating combos, like praying the Rosary and running. Best combo ever. I did it when I was preparing for my half marathon last year. Those are the moments where, rather than using and listening to brainless music, pray your Rosary. I have that Black Catholic chic, and this is the Rosary that I use when I was running a lot, and it's so good, and it really gets you to be pumped. It really brings that in you. And every time that I was running, praying the Rosary, I always would picture the cross right there when Jesus was crucified that day, where Mary was here, was literally in front of the cross, and then you had one of the disciples, and you were there, you were looking at him, you were meditating every single part, you were staying in that moment, and you were forgetting everything about your pain. Even if you were dead running, you would keep running and not feeling the pain. And I'm telling you, it worked. To point that at the end, when you finish the run, you are feeling your best. You start the day with such energy that nothing else can be a substitute that is better than what you're gonna feel when you finish that. It was magic for me. So you don't need to run if it's not something that you like, but find something where you're in movement. I don't run as much as I used to run before, but when I get to work, for example, and I get to take the bus, I'm having the Rosary, I'm praying the Rosary. When you walk in the neighborhood, for example, at the end of the day, when you want to chill, relax, you can play that. When you're biking, it's the same thing. You can do that. You have to find a way to just combine everything that you do in one way into other ways, into your daily life and daily practice. Don't feel like you need to think about new activities that you never do, because this is how it gets to be very harder. If you know the book Atomic Habits that I read many, I would say almost ages ago at this point, there was a way where you just stack up habits, something that you're already doing that has movements. You can use it and use the Rosary and pray the Rosary in the back end. For example, if you're doing dishes, you can do that. If you're doing even a quick run out, you can play your Rosary. So find a way to combine things into things that you already do. And if you don't have any, let's say, moving activity, find one.
You don't have to give up music, just clean it up. There's Christian rap, Catholic lo-fi, rock, worship. Don't let your playlist pull your soul in the wrong direction.
Cleaning up your music is very important. I think I'm at a point now where I listen to 3 to 5% of the music that I used to listen to before. And it was a mix of pop, rap, R&B, but mostly pop, because not necessarily a rap type of person. I don't listen to rap like that. I don't listen to R&B like that either. So it would be maybe a lot of Afro music, a lot of rock and roll music. I love rock. I've always been obsessed. The rest would be a lot of, I would say, the most popular songs that you may have online from American artists. But I'm at a point now that when I start hearing a lot of bad words, I cringe. My body reacts to it to the point where I just have to turn it off. I'm not saying that I'm perfect to the point of not listening any type of world music, I would say, but I'm getting to a point where I really don't enjoy it as much. So there's a big difference now with what I'm listening to. And what I'm listening to is still a lot of good music, but they're more Christian, they're more Catholic, and you find a lot of genres. And if you're a fan of rap, you're gonna find a ton of rap Christian music on Spotify, for example, and having complete playlist. If you are a fan of rock like me and you love anything that is a little bit more unique, original like that, you're gonna find a ton. I found recently a channel, and I have to find the name of the channel. If I don't, it's probably gonna be on the screen. They do Catholic rock music, Catholic rock songs. This beautiful, like the visual, it's like you are being transported. The music is good. The lyrics are good, obviously, because it's all about God and it's all about the Lord. And then the visual is at another level. So you can find anything you want in those genres that you like that can be Christian. So start cleaning up your ears is really a good way, because you start closing the door to be at peace, to be online, to have success, and really start listening to the Spirit of God the most. You need to do sacrifice where you're cutting yourself from the world. Not in a way where you despise the world or you're feeling like you're superior to them. It's not the point. You want to help them because it is a mission that the Lord is giving you. But you need to build yourself and be ready for that, because the attacks are going to be bigger as well. The more you're going to get out there with that Spirit of God, the more you're going to get attacked. So you need to get ready for that. You need to be ready for that mentally, physically, spiritually. And you don't need any personal development for that. You need simple tools. And those are just habits to start having. Don't chase feelings, chase truth. Mass isn't supposed to entertain you. It's where heaven meets earth, where we receive Christ's body and blood. I'm gonna blame a lot of people in our own community being black, and that is across any continent, whether it's African, North American, Caribbean. We love the good vibe. We love having fun. It's cute. When you get to something more reverent and more beautiful, and especially because it's the truth, you're not necessarily going to find things that you may like completely, or things that have to appeal to, let's say, your fun, your way of fun, or your definition of fun. You can go to concert for that. When you go to the Mass, it's a different story, because it's an invitation from the Lord. And it's that moment again of the ultimate sacrifice that he did for us. That is Mass for us, especially as Catholics. So there's a lot of things that you may not understand, that you may find boring because of it. There's a lot of things that I was not able to understand when I was younger, and that I was going to Mass with my siblings and my mom, and we would find a lot of things boring. And it was partly our fault, because we didn't necessarily read the scripture that much to start. We didn't necessarily understand the process of the Mass that much. Even when you get through the catechism, there's a part where the family, as a system, as the set, have to bring that on top of the catechism or any type of guidance that you may have from people from the church. So you need to find those things into your family already as well. And I'm not saying that my parents, they were doing things bad. No, on the contrary. But there was those missing things that was making the Mass being boring, because we didn't understand everything that was happening. You understood the Eucharist when you go and you take part into the communion, but you don't even get the depth of it, the very, very depth of it. As in, Jesus is really there. He's really present. And that's something that more than 80% of Catholics still don't believe nowadays. So you don't understand the traditions, you don't understand the gesture, you don't understand what we say and why we say it. So you're getting to the Mass as just somebody that is participating and just being there, like a plant, showing up. Cute at the beginning, but to get to be consistent, to get to be in love even more, you need to start working on that relationship per se. And when I say working, you need to start taking part into understanding, because if it was not for his grace, you wouldn't even get up in the morning and feeling that need and being drawn to go to the mass every Sunday, at least. You wouldn't have that. It's a grace, it's a gift, it's a beautiful gift to be able to feel that drawn and going to the mass like that every Sunday. So your work at that point is to still understand the concept of it, right? And you're not going to the mass to do the study of the mass. You do the study of the mass in your own personal life. So the catechism, the Bible, the Catholic Bible studies, people you're talking to, the mentors that you may have, the priests that you may know, those are the people that are going to enrich that spiritual life of you. And you're going to start being more in love with Jesus because you're understanding the beauty behind the Mass. And every time that I go to Mass now, it's something that I get to discover every single Sunday. You're not going to feel that connection every single time you go to the Mass. There's going to be those moments where you feel dry. You feel the dryness. You feel like God is not there. But it's not because of you being Catholic. It's not because of the Catholic Church not doing anything and adding up things and inventing doctrines or I don't know. It's just because you have those moments. You're human. You're gonna have those days when you're waking up in the morning, you just don't feel that. You get to the church and then you start feeling something. And sometimes it happens to me that I'm in the house and I don't feel that in the morning. I want to sleep, like most of us. We like being in the bed because it's comfortable. And then the idea of you getting out and having to make the effort to do that, you just start to have all type of excuses. Oh, I have a headache. Oh, my knees is hurting. And because I had the talk with my mom yesterday, we were talking about it and how much people nowadays, they just don't understand the beauty of it because they just don't know what they don't know. And when you lost the habit of going to the Mass, it's harder again to find that habit. And that's why when you start having the consistency to do it, keep doing it. Even when you don't feel it, keep doing it. Keep going, keep understanding, keep enriching your life, keep getting deep into why we're doing it, every single thing. We have a lot of resources. Our issue in 2025 is not to not have information. You just need to Google it and you're going to find it. So that's not an excuse anymore for anyone out there to be like, I don't have the resources. I don't know. What is the Mass about? No. You need to know. It's easy. Make an effort. Show up. When I was at university and I would go party and waking up late or at least sleeping, going to bed super late, I was like, snap, I'm going to have to go to the church even with 3 hours sleep because nobody asked me to go to the party. I was well motivated to go there. I was well motivated to shake anything, but then I don't have the motivation anymore. Like I don't have the energy anymore to go to the Mass. What is this, right? When you start comparing and be like, I was really excited to go to the brunch more than going to the Mass, really start questioning a lot of things, not in a bad way, but in a way where start seeing where are the priorities. And a lot of people, being Catholics that I know, have sometimes just the bad experience of the Catholic Church because the parish was probably not the best. There's so many parishes out there. If there's something that you're going to be able to find no matter where you go, it's a Catholic Church. Can't speak for others. I can't speak for other denominations. Go with finding the truth. And the truth sometimes is not entertaining. It's not a concert. It's a sacrifice. It's a reverence. It's not about me and it's not about me feeling like I want to shake something. You taking part in the most beautiful sacrifice that Jesus made for us. It is enough. It's right there in front of you, looking at you, loving you right there, physically. Adoration is another point for me that changed a lot of in my life. Before, I used to not get adoration that much, like being in front of the sacrament, in front of Jesus, and that I didn't even understood what was happening. It's another extension of being in silence and really being intimate with Him. That's adoration because you adoring Him, you taking part of just being with Him, you talking to Him, you building that intimacy with Him. And it is a moment of silence because this is how God talks to us. He talks to us in silence. He's not the louder. He's not going to try to fight with other voices in your head. You have to get rid of those voices, and then you're going to be able to listen and hear his voice clearly, or at least more clearly. So the adoration for me is really a way for you to find that peace again, to find that beauty, that love for him and what he's going to say to you directly. Not necessarily that you're going to hear concrete voice, but you're sitting down in the church, you have Jesus right in front of you through the Son Sacrament, the communion, and he's right there. This week I was so dead going to the adoration, something that I do weekly now. And I was so dead, I was so sleepy. I didn't even know that I would make it. And I was not motivated because I was sleepy. I just wanted to get back home. And then I went to church, I arrived there, I found my energy for some reason. And then I sit down right after the Mass, after the Eucharist. And then you just spend time and even a couple of minutes. And then on the moment, you don't feel nothing. You just feel the silence and something calm, something very deep, but you're good. And you leave the church, you get back home, you feel like you are on cloud 9. You can't explain that. You're feeling lighter. Sometimes you may even cry. That experience can be very profound for anyone. When you're not ready and you just are in front of him, you're just like, whoa. So those are the moments where you recollect yourself when you're talking to him. It's the perfect moment for you and Jesus, even if it's 15 minutes, even if it's 10 minutes. And spending that time in the silence with him is gonna do a massive difference for the rest of your week. Not only just the moment you leave the church, you get that for the rest of the week. So a really great way to reconnect and recollect that, and really being into that reflection and meditation part of being with the Lord. Confession is where you reset. It's a spiritual detox where shame doesn't win. Confession is probably one of those undervalued sacraments in the Catholic Church because nobody likes to talk about what they are doing bad. They feel like they're being judged. They feel that they could be judged, or they feel like the priest is going to share that to the entire crowd and congregation and everybody's gonna know your secret. No, he's acting in personal Christi, which means that you're talking to Jesus directly through him. That's it. It comes down to, again, the contact, the physical contact, the physical voicing what you've done wrong to offend God. And repenting, not just having that in your mind, not just having that in your thoughts. And you can do that outside of the church, as in you don't have to go to confession for every little thing that you may do. If it's something that is grave, something that you were aware of doing and you knew it was bad, you have to go. The minor things is things that you can be in your room and talking to Jesus is everywhere. He's going to listen to you. But the difference into really having the priest right in front makes you realize as a human what you've done wrong. And that translates into the spiritual realm as well. Because everything that happens here on this side of the world into the physical side happens into the spiritual as well. So by talking to the priest, you're not just talking to a human being, you're talking to Jesus. The act of doing it brings you to Jesus. Even if you don't see that, even if you don't feel that like that, but it's still something that is very, very, very powerful. And the enemy don't like it, hates it. He hates it. Why? Because when you start voicing it, because you really want to go back at God and really repair that relationship with him, he's losing you the more you do that. And that's why a lot of people, having the talk with my mom again, made us think about how much even Catholics, a lot of us, we don't like it. We hate it. Because, well, first of all, we feel like the priest is going to judge us. He's going to look at you differently now. But my own priest told me, and a lot of other priests said similar things, that most of the time, when they are doing those confessions and people go and confess, most of the time they forget. It's like a grace that God gives them for them to be able to heal the person through the confession, being in personal Christi. But because it's not for them and it's for Jesus, it's between Jesus and the Christian, they have that thing where they forget. And it's probably through the formation as well, because being a priest is not something that you do overnight. It's you studying, understanding what it is to be a priest. It's a vocation, but it's still a part where you have to study, understand what you need to be doing, because you have a big responsibility out there for people coming to you and living and sharing a lot of things that make them be vulnerable. And confession is a lot more valuable than a lot of exorcism. We love hearing about exorcism, people being possessed, but the confession gets you to not even get there. By doing it more frequently, you get rid of the enemy, you get rid of the devil, piece by piece by piece by piece, to get back to the wholeness, to being in one again, to be whole again.
You have gifts. Use them in your parish. Lead, write, care, propose new activities, help the youth. Make the church more alive, not by complaining, but by showing up.
When we get to church, we get there to take something and never necessarily give something. I had that tendency to go to church, get to read and listen to whatever the priest was going to say, and then get back home. And that's probably the 99% of Christians out there when they go to church. But to find even the church being more entertaining, you need to be able to know your community. You need to be able to know the people that you're probably going to meet every other Sunday. And it's very awkward when you're trying to befriend everybody the first Sunday you're there. A lot of us, it takes time. You look at people, you observe people, you start saying hi, and then the second hi, and then, oh, what you do? Oh, we're doing the same thing. Oh, we're interested in the same thing. And that's how it goes. So the more Sundays you go, the more you get along with people, the more you get to see and know people that might have the same values as you, but the same interests as you as well. And that's beautiful. But other than that and beyond that, not only you start to really know your community, so you feel more home when you get there, but you start participating into different activities as well. Makes a big difference. A lot of Catholic churches, usually they need help. We just have less people that usually go to churches. Let's be blunt about it and honest about it. So the more help they get, the better they're gonna feel. They're never gonna say no to anyone helping. What I love about my church is that we have a lot more younger people helping out, being there, reading, cleaning up the church, taking part in communion, giving communion through the approval of the priest. And they do a lot of things, and they are really interested in taking part of the community, the church, and really helping and serving. As an example, when I got confirmed, it was such a beautiful experience, and I was a little bit anxious in a way where I was like, oh, I'm going to be in front of people, and then I'm going to have to just be in front of people. So I was getting a little bit timid, and then I had no idea how much people were going to be very happy for me. And the following Sunday, I had one parishioner that I don't necessarily know personally. I know her face because she usually goes there. She knows my face type of thing. But she came at me and literally gave me a little bracelet for the Rosary with a little note saying how much she was really happy for me to really have been able to get through the sacrament, and that she was happy for me to get closer to the Lord. And I didn't know anything about her. It was such a beautiful thing. It was such a big surprise. It was beautiful. I was so happy to be able to feel like I was part of the community, even if you don't know everybody from the community. Another one, I call her my Italian grandma. She's Italian, first of all, and she's so cute. And she's always smiling, and she talks in Italian, part French sometimes. She came at me and she hugged me. She was so happy for me. And she was like, I was not able to it when you got confirmed. All those beautiful things where I'm like, wow, it's such a wonderful thing to be part of the community like that, because I decided to serve more. I take part into social activities from the church, into things that I do because I love doing graphics. So this is something that I do for the church now. When we getting to organize events, I just brought it to the church and used my creative outlets for that. And that's something that you can definitely do. When you are like that, you don't need to get online and think about serving somebody online. Start with real life. Start with communities that you can serve on. Look for places where you can serve people. If you have people out there that needs help with something, ask them, be with them. You don't need to be with everybody, but start looking and observing into your own life. Who are the people that you can help and serve that way? Well, now when we get to concrete tools that you can use online to research, to read more, to be able to connect more online, there's a lot of things that you can do as a YouTuber. There's a lot of research that you can do strategically and in a really smart way. We're gonna start with ChatGPT. I'm very creative. I have a million ideas at once. What I do now is that I use ChatGPT to structure my ideas a lot better. And something that I did even more recently, where I was going for something more cinematic because I love the style. I'm drawn to the cinematic feel. I love it. I adore it. And I was trying to find a way to bring a signature to whatever I'm gonna talk about here online, because it's still my ideas, but there's a way to bring more of that vibe where you know that when you get into my channel and you watch my videos, it's pretty much me, but into a style that I love. And there's a couple of YouTubers that I look up to when it comes to the style, the visual, the aesthetic of it, and one of them is James Chani. Any type of great and interesting topic, he does it into a documentary style. And I was so drawn because it was one of those first people that I saw having and use an approach where you can talk about simple, interesting things and even deep things sometimes, but you find a way to bring something original where it's like a movie. And I want people to feel like when they watch my video, it's like a movie. You're definitely getting a divide. I want to believe so, but it's a movie. You want to be right there. And that's what I love when I watch movies. I feel like I'm part of the movie. I feel that I'm of the team. And obviously the aesthetic of it. So what I did with ChatGPT is that I went along with asking to come up with a signature style where I would use James Chani one, and then combine it with a commentary approach where it's more genuine, more human as well. So we get to have documentary style, but we get to bring something more intimate, I would say, where I can talk and I really don't have everything scripted. I could have a part of it very poetic, but the other part where I could just speak just like I do. Or I go with the script, but I have a freedom to go along with my thinking and my thought and wherever I feel like the spirit is leading me. I have ideas, I need structure, and I need clarity into how I can organize it better for people to digest it online. And it's a really great tool for that. The dangerous part always, obviously, is really to rely too much on that and letting GPT do everything for you. And that's where we don't see you as a person anymore. We just see the robots. And that's probably the future of the society, but you don't want to be part of it. You want to use it as a tool, not as something that leads you. ChatGPT, because English is not my first language, obviously. Sometimes I do have the ideas, but I don't necessarily have the whole vocabulary for that. So I can say the same thing and I can say the things the same way. And at some point, for somebody that would watch, let's say, every video of me, they're gonna be very much bored. That's what I'm talking all the time. Being Christian, being Catholic online, and being creative, how you get to combine that here online, how you get to be more confident on camera and using God's voice and being God focused rather than being a boss babe. So all are the ideas that I have, and I have those pillars, but I need the structure. A great tool, an app that I know I talked about a lot on this channel. Hallow is the one for everything. Christian Catholic app. You get all the prayers. You get the prayers for the saints, the prayers for Mary. You get podcast. You get help to be less anxious and using, again, a Catholic Christian approach to work on that. You get a ton of things and resources that I don't even know was possible to have in one app as a Christian, as a Catholic YouTuber, or just as a Catholic in general. And you get the Bible in a year from Father Mike Schmidt. You have the full Rosary where you have all the mysteries. And then you get scriptural rosary as well, where you get to scripture along with each Hail Mary. If you are somebody who's busy and you don't have that time, even if it's still important, You are in the bus, you can pray. You are in the car, you can pray. And if you are French like me, you've got people that you know onto the French Catholic sphere. One of them is very, very, very known. His name is He's great and he's doing reading as well. You have way too many things at some point to even just pretend that there's nothing out there for you. That's one of the things that I use now on a daily basis. In the morning, we do rosary. In the night, we do rosary. We do some readings. During the day, sometimes if I can, I make an extra effort to pray another rosary. The lives of the saints, you get to know more of the saints, more of the lives, what they did, how they were able to really get closer to God. It is in one place. And it's so well done, and the visual is so appealing as well. Now they even have music. The next one is Truthly. It is an app that I discovered more recently, a couple of months ago. It is like ChatGPT, but it's focused onto the Catholic teaching. So whatever you asked Truthly, you're gonna have answers just like ChatGPT, but you're gonna have the context of the Catholic approach. Why do we hold traditions and scripture? Why do we do what we do? And even if you're not Catholic and you're just looking for an approach where you have more of that knowledge, when you want to understand things happening into the society, it's a great way to go through it. It's gonna use the roots that you already have being Christian to make you understand whatever happens around you. You may want to research more on that rather than ChatGPT sometimes, especially when it comes down to Christian teachings and the Bible. The next is a popular one, Canva. If you like graphics like me and you love pretty things and you love pretty image and visuals and all those things for your YouTube, Instagram, anything that you're doing in general, Canva is really the app for that. And I don't even know if I need to talk about Canva because to me, everybody knows about Canva. But for those that may have questions, you can do pretty much anything. You can do presentations, you can do thumbnails, you can do posts. You have a ton of graphics right in there. You've got GIFs that you can use as well. You've got animations that you can use as well. You can create anything even if you're not a graphic designer, because it's really simple when you use it. Your signature brand is a great way to start working on it. What are your colors? What are the things that you want to talk more and that your branding visuals may draw people in? But now for my Thomas, for example, my little brother is the one doing it now. He's doing a great job. He's amazing at it. Spotify is another place. I feel like music is to be sacred and stay sacred because whatever you hear can affect you. And that's why not letting any music of the world or any worldly music into the church when you go to mass. And it might be boring for a lot of people, but clean up everything around you makes you get to hear God's voice a lot clearly. You can find audiobooks now on Spotify. You can find podcasts. And I discovered a Christian jazz playlist just like that. And it was so beautiful. I don't need to do anything. It was already set up and I just played it. The next thing would be Audible. I know we're getting into that digital age where reading is just a little bit more exhausting for us because we have that fish time attention. But if you can't, you can use Audible. If you're not a fan of paper books, get yourself a Kindle and you have ways to have a lot of books that you can read with no problem at all and without having to have a space to literally have a ton of books to be stored. You don't need to go viral. You just need to be deeper with everything that you're gonna use and any tool that you may have. Because as a Catholic creator, it's not about having a million followers, a million subscribers. It's about grace. It's about the impact. It's about people that you touch every single day. And you have that responsibility because it's cute to have the audience for it, but we get to forget a lot about the responsibility. And peace, it's not something you wait to feel. It's something you build with truth, beauty, and quiet choices every day. Well, I hope it was interesting for you. I hope you learned something out of this video and it was appealing enough for you to subscribe. Just saying. You have a lot more below where you can find a guide onto being more confident online in front of the camera, but being God-centered. And if you're ready to even go further than that, there's a way to work with me and everything is going to be down below as well. So Like I say all the time, keep smiling because it's free and contagious in a good way.